that heaviest band is going to include the city of Chicago, Rockford, and Madison. Milwaukee and Kankakee are going to be in the lighter area, and of course, just south of there, they're not going to get much of anything at all. It's a complete difference from what we've been seeing. A few clouds, 30 to 25 tonight.
3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tavern Brick Podcast. And today this is episode 2, and I have 2 for 2 of great podcasters joining me. Your favorite Minifig host, Matt. Matt, why don't you kind of dive in, explain who Matt is and what the Bricks Kings podcast is all about?
Sure. So I'm a podcaster like yourself now. Welcome to the club. That's always a good thing. I usually don't show my face very often. It's not for any reason of, I don't want anybody to see my face. I don't really care. It's just, I've never been let's jump into YouTube or anything like that. But I started podcasting a little over 5 years ago. Just a big hobby, just something I wanted to do for a long time, listen to podcasts. Found my dark ages kind of over in about 2013, I would say, when my son started getting into it. Excuse me. And it was one of those things where they kind of met together, these two hobbies of mine, and just really took off from there. It's been a great 5 years. It's been an interesting 5 years. It's been very successful. I appreciate the community that I'm a part of, the Lego community, podcasting community, wherever. So it's been a great ride. I think we're just about 3 years now. Wow. I got an email from somebody in iHeartMedia, and they have a podcasting platform called Spreaker, which is where I host through currently, where they came aboard, and they have you have these podcast collectives. They have, hundreds or maybe tens of thousands of podcasts, whatever, under one umbrella. And that's what they were doing. They were looking for something a little more under the radar, a little more niche, and asked me if I'd like to come aboard and be part of the monetization program and stuff like that. And this was never something that I set out to do. Wow. It was one of those things where I just wanted to do it for me and talk to people, meet people and stuff like that. And it's just grown by leaps and bounds. And I've had listeners from literally every country except maybe 2 or 3 just follow those stats. And I'm like, wow, that is crazy. There's actually somebody there, I didn't even know some of these places were countries, to be honest. So, but yeah, it's a great 5 years. I've got to meet, well, not in person, but I've got to meet people like you and talk with Shy, who you had on your first episode, and just so many different people, whether they're just fans of Lego or they're content creators, whether it be streamers or, bloggers, whatever. There's just so much out there. So that's kind of where my journey is to this point in time.
Did you think when you first started it, like talking to the people that you've talked to, I mean, you've interviewed some of the very best designers, and to actually think about how wide range and how big Lego is itself. I mean, I started down the YouTube wormhole and then just started watching, like Greg's World and like Brick Attack, and just kept stumbling upon all these different podcasts or vloggers or whatever you want to call them. It's like, wow. And then you discover Brick World, and like it's insane.
Yeah. It's just crazy how many different content creators are out there, whether it be, like you said, vloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, whatever you want to call them. People that stream Twitch, YouTube, other platforms. It's just wild. You had mentioned like the designers and stuff. I pride myself on building relationships with people, and especially the design teams. Not that I don't want to say anything crass about products from time to time, because there are times where I'm like, this was a mistake. This should not have been done. Yeah. And then I document it and send it back to them. And those teams get that stuff from anybody, all the dozens of us, hundreds of us, whatever. And they take it and run with it. But it's actually just kind of breaking down, oh, you're a designer, you're such a big, important person, to you put on your pants the same way I do. Let's just talk. And we just kind of, you build that personal relationship that I can tag one of them, Atticus, Cy McCarthy, who did some of the Jurassic Park sets coming up, did a lot of Jurassic World stuff. Having that interview with him was just kind of really easy going and stuff like that. And, I can send out the link or, comment on something and he replies. And it's a really great person to person relationship. It's incredible.
Yeah. I'm assuming you probably didn't expect your podcast to grow the way it is. I mean, it's the people you have on and the content that you're creating is, I mean, obviously before I jumped into this, your podcast is one I still listen to this day. And, you have your niche with the news on a Tuesday, and I look forward to that all. I mean, it's fun. It's a hobby, but it's a lifestyle too.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. It's hard to do it every single week. Sometimes weeks are dry, as sometimes there's a billion things and I drop an episode of it. And then 2 days later, I'm like, crap, I got to wait to do it next week. But yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. Like, I know you have a full-time job.
Yes.
As I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
And there are some lucky content creators out there that do vlogging and everything else for a living. And that's like great for them. And, it is hard to balance that, what I call Lego life and family life.
Yes.
Like I talked about with Shy about Lego burnout. Like there's some times where I just have to give myself a day and just no Lego.
Yeah. And that's, so you mentioned burnout. I had somebody ask me, I don't know, months, year, I don't know, however long ago it was, would I ever want to do this as a full-time job? And I was honest. I said no. And they kind of looked at me side-eyed, like, "Oh, why? Like you enjoy it, you do good stuff." I like it too much as a hobby, and I think, like you said, there are people that do this full time. Many of them do this full time, and kudos to them. Just the burnout that you or myself or anybody else that's a content creator feels from time to time. I don't want to have that as a full-time job problem. We all have our, 9 to 5s or whatever your hours are. And there's days like, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do this. Yeah. And I don't want that feeling. From time to time, you're like, I don't want to look at this Lego. So let's put it aside. We can do it another day. So it's interesting how different people manage it. But yeah, I mean, you've got your new stuff going here. You've got your Tavern Brick and stuff. I'm not trying to, spin the table here and be like, let me interview.
Go ahead, man.
But how do you manage that? I mean, because everybody gets burnout, whether it's just casual or, it's severe. How do you manage it, especially jumping into this new realm?
Yeah, it's definitely overwhelming. And having 2 young kids, and I know you're a family man yourself and you have your job. Like I said, my son is in sports. My daughter's getting into sports. We're running all over the place. Me and my wife are opening our own Lego store. We're basically running it out of our house right now. A dream down the road, but we just sell at vendor shows for the moment, and just trying to keep that dream going. But man, when I'm inventorying sets and I'm spending hours and hours, and it's just, it's like a second time job editing these videos. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of money that goes into it.
Yes, there is.
It's not just grab a microphone and pair of headphones and start recording. Like there's a lot more that goes into it, which luckily for me, Shy, I had him on first podcast. He's kind of been my mentor. So without him, I probably wouldn't be doing this episode right now. So it's not easy, but I want to keep Lego fun. I want to keep it fun with my kids, and to avoid burnout. I know when I get to the point of not having fun, I just set it aside and I'll come back the next day.
Come back to it later. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, having a Lego store, even if it's part-time right now, I know a few people that run Bricklink stores or other stuff, and it's just like it's daunting, and they're still working full time. I can't even imagine. I mean, I have issues, if I want to take something I bought, 4 years ago, and I'm like, I don't really want this anymore. I don't really have a place for this, and I want to turn around and sell it. It's like, it's a nightmare. You got to list it, and you get all these responses. Well, how much, hey, it's just, I can't imagine doing it in bulk. And then, like you said, sorting things, categorizing things, and then finding the space.
We bought somebody's entire Lego collection and all used sets. And literally to this day, this was 2 years ago, and still to this day, we are still going through all these used sets, and it is just overwhelming. But you just take it one set at a time, and that's it.
Did you have to piece them together? Did you just get like this giant bin?
Most of them were pre-assembled. They were hardcore collectors. They were just moving out of state, and they didn't want to move all the Lego. So I got a good deal. But man, it's a lot. It's like, if I could take this camera and go into the back storage room, like it's bins and bins and bins, and I just open a bin up and grab a set, and that's it, one set at a time.
A little bit here, a little bit there, and eventually it'll get done, right?
Yep.
The pyramids weren't built in a day, as they say.
It's self-punishment. Like, Marketplace is a dangerous place.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm on Marketplace all the time, and it's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up Marketplace. It's one of the interesting things to me, is because you see some people that will sell something, and I hate to be that slime ball, but sometimes people are like, they don't realize what they have. Right. They just want to get rid of it. Like, my kid left the house 10 years ago, and they're holding on to some kind of Star Wars set that right now is retailing for $900. And you're like, and they're just like, here, I need to get rid of this. It was $100. I'll take 80. And you're like, yeah. And you turn around and, you feel kind of crummy and like, but so on that same note, being a teacher, and you hear from parents and stuff like that, and they're like, oh yeah, we just throw it away. Like, if we don't want it, we just throw it in the trash. Like, you're throwing Lego away. What is wrong with you?
Right.
It never, the value never drops. So, it's interesting. It's a whole giant realm. And I don't think people that are just, well, I know people that are just casual, Lego collectors, builders, they have no idea the giant realm of everything else that revolves around a piece of plastic.
Yeah. Well, now getting more heavily involved too, you're doing a lot more conventions, a lot more travel. I mean, I see you at conventions, doing your podcasting, you get a table. How's that lifestyle of traveling and going to these conventions?
I enjoy it. Sorry, my Dr. Pepper is hanging in my throat. I just love talking to people in general. And I was telling somebody else earlier, yesterday, like, when I go to those shows, because Brick World Chicago is coming up, and I'll be at that one, and so many big builders, creators will be there. And, I spend 3 days there doing interviews and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, like, I'm wiped. They have all these activities at night, and I'm like, I could barely keep my eyes open, because it takes so much of your energy away, not in a bad way. And that's what I was trying to explain, but you're giving so much of yourself, and you're getting so much back, but you expend so much of that. And then you're kind of done. You're like, I don't have words. But going to those conventions are incredible, because you get to meet people from all different places around the country, or depending, a lot of people for Chicago will come in from outside the United States. And, you run into, like last year, the one Lego designer, I knew he was coming. So I was like, send an email to Lego, like, can I get him on? Because, he's got a strict time schedule. But even the little ones, like, I go to the one down in L.A.N, which is where the Fort Hood Army base is, massive base military community. And it's so great just going there, because you have some of the smaller builders, people that might not think like, oh, my stuff is incredible, I'm going to start an Instagram or a YouTube or anything like that. But you get their story of where they started and what made them bring it out and where their passion is and where they have desires to go in the future, whether it be, you know, a social media thing or they just want to build bigger. And hearing that, you know, feeling that human element is incredible. Now the goal is, you know, Chicago Brick World this year. Obviously the home show in Texas, which I could not make last year because they were back to back. I didn't have enough time to come back and then hit that.
Is that the Brick Rodeo?
Brick Rodeo, yep.
Yep.
And you know, like I've been to Nebraska Brick Days. Theirs is coming up here in about 3 weeks. Timing just doesn't work for me to be able to get up there, but I would love to again, because you also get a different feeling for different communities, right? You know, people in Omaha, Nebraska are different than people in San Diego, California, or up in Washington for Bricks Cascade, or down in Texas, or, you know, Bricks, what I think it's Bricks, Virginia, whatever it's called. It's just, it's been a lot of fun. Now I drive. I'm not a flying person, and I've got all my equipment that I take on the road, not everything from in here. But it's a lot of equipment and I'm not putting it on an airplane and trusting that it's going to get there. And I don't want to FedEx it because there's always a chance that it doesn't get delivered or it doesn't get delivered in time or lost or whatever. So I've really enjoyed it so far. And I hope to get to more in the future.
Brick World Chicago is going to be a first for me this year. And it was just getting those past the badges and getting everything set and seeing your name on the attendee badge list. I was like, all right, it's committed. I'm doing this, which for me, the drive is only 4 hours.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. It's not what you have to do coming up from Texas. I mean, that's a drive.
You know what though? I'm happier behind a wheel than, well, maybe behind a microphone first. If I could have a microphone in my car and drive at the same time, I might be in perfect heaven. I know it's stupid, but I don't mind the drive, and I drive, like I just drive straight and go. Like I'll stop for gas, but I don't stop at a hotel and sleep. I just go. And I've done that my entire life with my family living in the Northeast, you know, 22-hour drive. I'm going straight, but I'm excited that you're going. That is awesome. It was big last year when it came back. It's going to be exceptionally larger this year. I know they are it is like stacked to the roof with people that are bringing this and that. And then you have the Lego Masters folks that come on or that are there for whatever photo ops discussions. And there's just so much, and there's so much to see. And you know, last year I probably did 16, 17 interviews over 3 days. Wow. But that's also at the same time trying to see the other things. And then you talk to other people and you're like, hey, would you like to do? No. Sometimes you have people that are like, I don't want to get behind a microphone. And the first thing I always get is this going to be on YouTube? No, it's not going to be on YouTube. I promise you.
Yep.
But I can't wait for Chicago. It was such a great show last year. The people were incredible. And Lego people in general aren't jerks. So you're in a pretty safe community and everybody kind of gets along. It's really cool to see all the vendors that come with, you know, their light bricks or the latest and greatest to do your trains or apparel or sets that you're trying to find. Like if you're a modular collector and you're trying to back collect or something like that, and you can find some deals here and there. It's an incredible show, and there's many others, but you're going to have a blast. Anybody that goes or has not gone yet that's going to see this, you need to. I think I don't know if registration is closed or not, but you got to go.
I've been to Brick World Milwaukee.
Okay,
that is nowhere near the size, the venue, nothing. I mean, Brick World Milwaukee was cool, but my son met some of the Lego Masters, and it's just a great, for how small it was a great event. I can't imagine, like, I know my kids' eyes walking in are probably just going to explode out of their heads. Mine too.
Yeah. Well, you see people that come in there and you can tell adults that have been to a big show for the first time because they're walking around like a child. They got a backpack on and they're just like, you know, their head's going everywhere and they're watching everything. And it's so cool with kids. So last year, where I was placed last year, it was where the entry doors were coming in, and I was along that wall, so people were funneling in and then going about wherever. I had a table off to my right side, and it had a bunch of, I can't remember how it was entered, but it was all these creations that kids had made. Something that a 7-year-old, most adults are going to be like, well, that doesn't look like much. To a kid, it's this giant robot, and it's only made of 25 pieces. And it was really cool to have that because they have judging for that as well. So you'd see people coming by, and I believe they had numbers or names. I can't remember. And, I know the voting had gone on earlier in the weekend, and then they announced it at one point in time. It was so much fun, just because that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's a toy. It's a kid's toy and an adult toy, let's be honest. But it was really cool to like have that next to me, not because I'm like, well, it was very much just a realistic, you back to the ground, like, okay, kids, they are some of the most creative people, and some of them turn into creative adults, which I'm not with the Lego brick.
I'm no designer myself. Like,
no.
I've been working on a modular like baseball stadium for over a year now, and I tinker with it when I can, but I can't sit down and just have the creative mind to just do what some of these designers do. It just insane.
Well, and it goes from modulars to like abstracts to mosaics to, my God, there's just so many different things that you get out of there. And any show, big shows, little shows, like I was saying, it's so incredible.
Yeah. I mean, a mutual friend of ours, Kate with the mosaics.
Yeah.
Like, it is insane what Kate does. Like, she's really good.
Yeah. Well, her and TK, I think it's TK Bricks Tim, when they were at, I can't remember what show they were at. I don't know if it was Bricks Cascade or whatever, when they did the Stranger Things, Demogorgon, and he built the Demogorgon head, like the flaps, whatever you want to call him, on the face that opened. And she did the mosaic, and they grouped it together. I mean, the partnerships that people do together to create things is astounding. And you just grow that much closer to people in the community. And like I said, it could be somebody in Washington, it could be somebody in Florida, and you come across those people once, maybe twice a year. And it's like you build such a strong relationship. Some of my closest friends are in the community now. Just because you have such a passion for it and you can talk about it. A new element comes out, it could be just a little leaf, and people are like, oh my God, did you see this leaf that just came out? I could do this with it. You know what? I could put it in the mosaic. I could do that with it. It just never ends. It never ends.
Yep. And it, like the live streams, I've been so glued to live streams lately, just because you put the kids to bed. It's a Friday night.
Yep.
I'm not a go out of town, you got kids and stuff. So I'm here. I'm in my
your
studio.
space.
I'm like, all right, well, live stream's going right now, and I'll watch this live stream and just communicate with people, and it's fun.
Yeah, there's so many, and you can go from the two big ones, obviously Twitch, and then you have YouTube, and you see, okay, they're building this, and I've got multiple screens in here, so I'll have something up here, I'll have something up here, I'll have something down here, and I'm building over here, and I'm listening to there's so much going on, but you're just enthralled by what is going on. And somebody might be building a modular that you may have already built, but the experience that they're getting and the joy they're getting out of it, or the conversation that they're having with their community that's in the chat, or, it doesn't matter. There's just, and I'm the same way you are. Tomorrow night, I'm going to sit in here, I'm going to do some editing, and I'm going to be watching something or listening to somebody, streaming, having some fun.
Yep.
And then, it's great.
So one thing I noted down was getting into like the Lego ambassador program. Congratulations, by the way. I know
thank you.
That's a huge success, like as a content creator, to be able to have that stepping stone. It basically provides you an avenue for more content. For people that don't understand what that program is, can you kind of dive in to
Sure.
basically start to finish of how that happened?
So the Lego Ambassador Network, or people call it the L.A.N. If you're not and I'll go through the acronyms here in a minute, but anybody can join it. But as a content creator on that side of things, it's a little bit different, and I'll get into that in a second. When I started my podcast, February 2018, you had to have content for, I believe it was 6 months or a year. I believe it was a year. And I applied, and, you fill out this, it's essentially a survey. Tell us about you, give us your content numbers from, I can't remember, like XYZ and stuff. And, you hear back, but there's only a certain period that they accept applications. Sometimes they get, what I was told, sometimes they get 100, 200 applications. And it could be anybody that has a blog. It could be YouTube. It could be, in my case, I was the first podcast. I believe I'm the only podcast that's in there. But you have so many different people. You have streamers as well that just strictly stream building Lego. And it's such a great feeling. And I know that there have been a number of people on YouTube that have applied multiple times and not gotten in. And the only thing, like, I try and, like, okay, well, what did I do different? Or what could they have done different? Or what could I, if I knew them better, what could I do to help them, further the journey? So getting in is a big deal. So myself, we're called RLFM, or if you're an online community, you're RLOCs, which are recognized Lego online communities, which are somebody that might have a blog or just have an online community only. Or you're considered a recognized Lego fan media, which is what I am, tripping over my words here, RLFM. So if you hear somebody say RLFM, that's what they're talking about. Getting in there allows you this, you walk through this doorway and it just goes, whoo, and there's this vast world of whatever you want, honestly. You get insider ability to have early copies of sets based on your interest or your community's interest. I have a very large Ninjago community. I also have a very, very large community when it comes to the icon sets, which used to be Creator Expert.
Right.
So when I have something like that, I can see my numbers absolutely spike because it's drawing certain people in. So you have an opportunity to get early review copies of things. Not everything. You'll see, like Brickset, for one. Brickset, everybody knows Brickset. If you don't, brickset.com. They may get something that I don't, and vice versa. So somebody is always making content on something. Now, that is a way that you can build relationships with the design team, because there's always an opportunity. We'll get an email. Hey, I know you guys got this set early. Would you like to do an interview with the design teams? It's tough for people that have full-time jobs in the United States, because they usually do these interviews at like 2 or 3 p.m. Denmark time, which is like 7 or 8 my time, and I'm already at work because, these designers have their night off and stuff. But there's so much more in there. Everybody says, oh, well, you get stuff for free. And my first response is, free isn't really free.
Right.
You're expected to make content on it. You're expected to provide a report based on your content, your numbers, your likes, dislikes, what your community thought of it. And that has to be done 30 days after, whenever, like today, if I did something today and, March 30th, April 30th, they're expecting something back, entailing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, or maybe there was no bad or ugly. And so it's not really free. And then the other issue, and I know people are going to be like, oh, you're crazy. I only have so much room in my home. I can't keep it all, but you can also not sell it. It is part of the program. So you run into the issue of, I can't sell it. You could give it away, and I've given away stuff, but I used to be able to give stuff away to the local children's hospitals we have, one in Dallas and one in Fort Worth. But ever since COVID, they won't take anything unless it's sealed in boxes, in bags. It can't be already opened, and for good reason. You have sick kids. I get it.
Yeah. Yep.
So that is that side of things. Then, like I said, you get the insider stuff for designers and to get interviews with them. Anything that's news that is coming out early, the press releases and stuff that people will find and are like, whoa. Now, obviously, some stuff somehow gets mined off of their insider stuff by Promo Bricks and the such. I'm still a firm believer that somebody's a Lego employee being Promo Bricks. I know it's probably not the case. Somebody's got like a really tight relationship, some kind of handshake deal in there.
Professional leaker.
Yeah, professional leaker. So you have that opportunity. And then I was fortunate enough to go to New York. I was one of, I believe there were 5 or 6 of us that are ambassadors for the Ninjago community. And we were given an opportunity on our own dime. So I had to fly up to New York City, which I had never been since I was like a child. So that's already anxiety right there, because it's like everything is just nuts. But we were given an opportunity to go there for a premiere when the new second half of the Crystallized series was coming out, when they were doing a private screening of that first episode of the second half. It made no sense. Just call it this episode number and you're saying, but we had an opportunity to go there and talk to the product manager here in the United States for the Ninjago theme. We just kind of got wined and dined, in the sense of not really wine and dine, but we got to come in early. We had a private screening before other people did. I got to meet some of the other RLFM. Ninja Whip on social media is a big Ninjago content community creator and stuff like that, and got to meet some of those. And just you talk to them through the internet, you talk to them virtually like you and I are doing, but you really, like I said, you get a sense of who they are as a person. You're like, you're really cool. I wish you didn't live in Mississippi. I wish we lived right down the road from each other.
That's what Shai was saying. Like,
yeah,
he's like, when you go to Brick World and you actually sit down and do the bro hug with when you meet Matt, like it's a different feeling.
Yeah,
and it kind of like relieves all that stress. Like, oh man, this guy is awesome. Like, I can't wait to kick it and have a conversation and go grab a drink at a bar later at night. And
yeah. Well, and then I'll get back to the land here, but you really realize what some people look like, because on YouTube, you may only see like chest up, or you may see like waist up. And, Brixie, I had no idea, and I'm not trying to shoot anybody down or anything. I had no idea Brixie was as short as he was until I got to Lego Brick World last year. I was like, is that him? He's just a short statured guy. And then, running into Emmasaurus and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, I recognize you. That's who you are. Like, you usually only see like here up.
You wear pants.
You wear pants. You actually have a lower half. You have legs that work. But it's really cool. But the land stuff, there's just so many different opportunities in there. And I know it's kind of looked at as like this golden thing. Just because you're not a part of the ambassador network doesn't mean that you can't make great content or whatever. Yeah. Being in there doesn't mean that you're special now. You still have to work your butt off to be able to continue to stay in there. They are constantly going through, and they are onboarding, which is bringing in, and offboarding communities, which is getting the boot. Yes. Maybe not because they did anything wrong necessarily, but maybe you're not keeping up with reports, or maybe you haven't done content in 6 months and they've done a review of certain people, and then there's also the side of being a professional. It is a professional opportunity, and based on how you treat Lego employees or you treat other employees in the program, there have been times in the past where people get the boot. And
that's one thing, I've heard on several podcasts was the attack against L.A.N. People not wanting to do reviews, people essentially talking shit about a Lego product and could be brutally honest, and they get the boot. Obviously you got to keep it professional, because essentially you kind of are an employee for Lego. You can be honest when you give a review and say, I don't like this method, or I don't like this, but to sit there and bash something into the ground, yeah, you're probably going to get the boot.
Well, so there's two things about that. They will tell you through and through, you're not an employee. Obviously, you're not an employee, but people equate it like, well, you're getting stuff. You're kind of an employee. You have a working relationship. It's the best way to put it.
I guess employee is not the best way to.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to be like, you idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. Just so that there's clarification there. But it is, you're trying to get what you need from them. They're trying to get what they need from you. You're essentially giving them advertising on whatever, especially with the adult community. That is where their big focus is right now. Kids are always going to pick up Lego and buy it, or parents will. But to the professional side of things, they have told us many, many times, we don't care if you don't like something and you want to say, you know what, whether it be on a podcast or YouTube or whatever, you're putting a red X across it or something, this set wasn't very good. There's a way to go about it. Again, professionalism. You can, very tactful. You can say, I didn't like this. This kind of looked like crap, but it's the way that you go about it. If you come straight out of the gate and, you're like, this thing freaking sucks. It's a piece of shit. I hate this thing. It's so ugly. What the hell are these designers thinking? Yeah, it's not going to look too favorably upon you moving forward. And that's what I was talking about, the relationships with the design teams. So the Star Wars design team is a very, very tight group. They've been together a long time, and I've had an opportunity to talk to them. Not that I'm a big Star Wars fan, just talking to their design side of things. And somebody in the past did not handle it professionally in the way that they had gone about it. I think it was an interview or something. And they were basically told, yep, you don't ever get an opportunity to review Star Wars or get an interview at Star Wars guys, just because you blew it. You acted like a complete jackass, for lack of a better term. Yeah. And now you're in this position of, well, I'm screwed.
Yep. And then it turns around and bashes on L.A.N.
Yeah.
Because they got booted.
Right. And it happens. And, people are going to do what they do. I think sometimes people will turn around, 10 years down the line and be like, that was really dumb of me, especially if you're younger, you're going to make those stupid mistakes. But the L.A.N is a great thing. Anybody that has a community that wants to be a big part of something, I always tell them, apply. I had talked to somebody last week that is a Twitch streamer. And I told him, I said, apply flat out, because the deadline was, I don't know if it's this week or whatever. And, I'll help you go through and fill out what you need to, not to make it, all rosy and perfect.
Right.
And just give you an idea. Like if you're struggling with, what do I put here? How do I make this better? But I think anybody that is curious about it or wants to take that opportunity, just do it. TK Bricks he was onboarded, I can't remember how long ago, but it's great. And you're not just kind of thrown to the wolves. You get a brick mentor, somebody that's been in there a long time and can show you the ropes and help you go through this. And you go through this like onboarding of like 3 months or something like that. And it just gives you an opportunity to learn where this is at in the L.A.N, because it's this giant forum, electronic forum. And finding things can be really difficult. Even for myself, I'm like, where the hell did that go? Like, and you're just scrolling up and down, you're trying to find things, but it just helps you be able to succeed and, build more relationships. That becomes your buddy. And, they're carrying around on their back for a couple months. And if you have questions, you can always go back to them. And from time to time, the brick blogger, she was my mentor because she's been in it for a long time. And, if I have a question here and there, I'll be like, hey, Anna, can you help me out with this? I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Or from time to time, if a survey will come out, because they have fan medias have surveys they have to fill out. I think it's every quarter. You're required to fill them out. You're required to fill out an end of year thing. If you don't, you lose your opportunity to be in the LAN. But every time without fail, she'll send me a message on the Ambassador Network saying, "Hey, Matt, don't forget to fill this out." But it's looking after each other.
Yeah.
And even though I'm, 4 years into it now, it's still nice because there's still somebody saying, "Hey, check your six, make sure that you CYA and, you're covered." But
yeah,
again, if you're anybody considering it, I say do it. You have nothing to lose. Nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to get that email or whatever that says, "Unfortunately, we don't whatever." But you have nothing to lose. It's nothing but up, and you can reapply. I think you have to wait 6 months or something to reapply, but why not go for it?
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, it's worth it in your eyes to do it.
In my opinion, it is based on what I do or what I create. I love talking to designers just because they're crazy people. You could have, not crazy in a bad way. Some of them are kind of nutty because they just see things a different way. But guys like, I can't remember Chris's last name, but Chris, who runs the Speed Champions division, he's the lead senior designer. Justin Ramsden, who's the Monkey Kid guy. Nick, who does all the Ninjago stuff. It's great to build those relationships, and then you can see them on social media, or you have an opportunity to chat with them again, and they know who you are, because everything's through a video call, and you have an opportunity to be like, "Hey, Chris, do you remember?" And you get some different insights. But it's worth it just to have that community alone. And there's some fan media outlets, because it's all over the world, but there's some fan media outlets that are not the biggest in wanting to talk to other people. They're in there. They want to do their thing. They want to follow the rules, and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an incredible opportunity. It's a great experience every single day. I'm like, okay, it's still cool. You're still learning something new every single day. It's really great.
Are you going to have an opportunity at all with the media background to go to the Lego house? Is that something you foresee in the future, or? So
I was not able to go this past year. I was sick, so I was not able to fly on a plane. I didn't test positive for COVID or anything, but flying with the flu on a plane these days is frowned upon, especially when you're flying to Europe, for 12 hours on a plane. So I forgot to mention this. So communities in the Ambassador Network, you're labeled as tier 1 or tier 2. Tier 1 is where you come in when you initially enter into the program. After so long, there's a form you can apply to be tier 2. Usually the bigger, larger, content heavy communities, myself, there's a bunch of them that are tier 2, like Brick said is tier 2. Beyond the Brick is tier 2. Brick Fans tier 2. Myself, I'm just saying those just because off the top of my head, but there's so many. And tier 2 are the first people to get an opportunity to go every year. It's called Fan Media Days. Now you have to pay your own way. You got to pay for your hotel. You got to pay for your flight. You're talking $3,000 right there. Now they'll handle your, food while you're in there. But if you're going anywhere outside, no. But that is where they give you the opportunity to come. It's for 2 days. This year it was the last week, 2 weeks, second to last week in September. It changes based on, different factors. However, you get an opportunity to go there. That's usually where they'll unveil new things. Like a few years ago, they did it virtually because COVID stuff, and the year after COVID, that's where the typewriter was unveiled. That's where the one of the, oh my goodness, the Winter Village sets was unveiled. This past year, there were some other things. And then you get private one-on-one time to meet with like 5 design teams. You get to choose, or at least give your top, like they'll ask a list of like, give us your top 10 that you want to talk to. And they'll try and make it happen throughout that day. There's a specific day that they do it. So eventually I will get over there. It was nice doing it virtually because, I mean, even though it was like 2 o'clock in the morning for me to be able to do it, and it was all, it was 8 hours. He was so incredible. So the goal is this year to head over there. So when you asked about travel, it's not a show, but it's a show essentially. And,
Right.
my wife and I talked about it, and I was like, well, I think we should go. Like, you and I both go, and you're not going to care, but at least, we can do things outside of that. Check out Billund and whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen coverage of the Lego house a couple times, and just like Billund itself, you think, oh, this is the Lego HQ, the Lego campus, and it's just placed in this small town, and it's just so weird, 'cause, like, you would expect like something so much bigger, but it's really not.
It's not. And it's funny because it is literally, the town is Lego. Like, there's nothing else there. You have all these little stores and stuff, people that are going about their daily lives and stuff. But it's not like you have these big conglomerates there. It's Lego and that's it. And
Yeah.
Lego is Billund, Billund is Lego, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, you have, but it's really cool because, you walk down I wasn't there, but one of the designers for the ideas theme, Sam will post up on, I can't think of what his handle is, but on Twitter, and he'll post different things, all these little shops that he goes into, and he's getting these crazy deals on old Lego sets that it's essentially like $30 here in the United States, and it's something from 10 years ago. You're like, what the hell? And then, he's taking pictures of this stuff, and somebody's facade is Lego brick. And then you see these Lego brick characters in like a roundabout. It's like, what is going on? Like, that would be so cool. But then at the same time, I wonder, like, as a designer, as an employee of Lego, you're like, God, I just want to get away. Yeah. And you see some of them that, they live in other countries, a lot of them in, Western Europe, and they're like, I'm out. I'm going back, home for vacation, for holiday or something like that for a while.
Yeah. Boone made that move.
Yeah.
Uprooted everything, and I see him posting, and just, I like seeing the pictures of him kind of like going around Billund, and
he's living the life that he wanted to do. It's great.
I would miss like American football and baseball way too much.
Well, it's funny, you think about what we have as a culture here in the United States, and it would definitely be a culture shock. Food alone, the relationships, but Texas, everything, you hop on a highway, you're here, and everything is so spread out. And there it's not. Nothing in Europe is spread out. It's all these kind of like row houses and stuff, not everywhere. But I'm like, I don't know that I could live there like that full time. And it's funny, you mentioned about Boone. He went from a fan builder to fan media to an employee of Lego.
Yeah.
And it's great. And then you talk to people like Tiago Catarino, who is Portuguese and worked there for a few years, and then, came back to his native country of Portugal and stuff. And now has this crazy successful YouTube channel. But, he was kind of like, I needed more family. Like, we needed to get back to what we are and stuff. And some people, I don't want to say burn out, but some people are like, you know what, I want to go back to doing something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a lot of people's dreams, in the Lego community, of wanting to be a Lego designer and, working in Connecticut or wherever, and it's like,
right.
But you have to realize you literally uprooting everything in your life.
You are. Well, and it's funny you mentioned about Connecticut. That, if any of y'all don't know, the headquarters right now for the US is in Connecticut, but I think 2025 is when they make the official move to somewhere in Boston, is where their new headquarters are going to be. And they're offering people that live in Connecticut right now the opportunity to stay in Connecticut based on, I guess, some of the jobs they do. Or if they so choose, they can move. And that's something else. I'm like, okay. Because, you talk about Billund, and Billund's this kind of tiny town, and Lego's there. But, where the Lego headquarters are in Connecticut is a tiny town. And it's like, what is going on here? So, but yeah, it'd be a great opportunity. And, I've joked around from time to time with friends and stuff and said, well, and I've even talked to one of the designers. I was like, well, if Lego ever decides to do like an in-house, like podcasting guy, like I'll move then. We can do it. We'll do it then. But, yeah, it's just, it has to be an opportunity of a lifetime for those guys, especially when you think of Americans that go over there, because I mean, you're up in Wisconsin, I'm down in Texas, and it's nothing for people to go from state to state to state. But you got to realize in Western Europe, those countries are like the size of some of the smaller states here in the US.
Yeah.
And you're going from country to country to country. And it's just a different feel. You go from the UK to Germany to Denmark, you're going to get a different feel. It's like whether you go from California to Texas to Florida, you're getting, the Southeast. It's a completely different vibe, accents, ideas, ideologies, all kinds of different stuff. So,
yep. I mean, my first time traveling from Wisconsin to San Antonio, Texas, I was like, it was like culture shock. I was like, whoa, people do stuff really different down here.
Well, yeah. And that, like I had mentioned with New York City back in October, like everything is just go, 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 rush, rush, rush. And like myself, we live on a couple acres, and I can't imagine living in, even though it's a 2,000 square foot apartment or whatever, I can't imagine living in an apartment and walking down, and just getting groceries and walking back. Like I can't fathom that. And, I was only there 24 hours. I flew up in the morning. I landed, I did the stuff throughout the day, checked out some of the touristy stuff there, and did the content stuff, and then had dinner with Braden from Ninja Whip, and then I went back to the airport, called a red eye, and I came back home. I was like, it was enough for me in that less than 24 hours. I'm good.
Well, we're coming down to the end here. I just wanted to touch on one more thing. If you could kind of cover what's up and coming with the podcast, just a quick history, or not history, but future of what we can see.
Sure. As everybody knows, the new Jurassic Park stuff is coming out in June for the 30th anniversary. I already have something scheduled. May or may not get something early. But definitely already have the design team that I'm going to be chatting with. That's already been scheduled. Yes. So I have an opportunity to do that again. I think we're going to get Atticus and I can't remember the other guy's name. I can't even say it. But he wasn't able to make it last time. So hopefully he'll be able to join us this time. Some of the new things that are potentially coming up, there will be that, and about obviously Brick Road Chicago. Going to be collecting as many interviews with all kinds of different people that I can, but just kind of catching up on some things. I just got a shipment in of stuff like The Office and the Lighthouse and stuff like that. So being able to get back to that kind of stuff. And I mean, I just did the Indiana Jones stuff. That episode's dropping. I don't know by the time people are going to hear this, but it's going to be dropping on the 31st. So, but there's always stuff. There's always content to be made, whether it be news type stuff, whether it be set release stuff, whether it be interviews. It just never ends. And just when I think like I'm looking down the road a couple weeks, I'm like, man, I'm going to hit a dry spell. Like there's not much coming out. There's not sets really releasing right now. And then it just goes, whoo. And I'm like, okay, I got speculation. I got more content coming. So, yeah, it's not stopping. Episodes have, I don't want to say been sporadic, but it's just trying to, like you had mentioned, fit the time. And then, sometimes things don't work out the way they're supposed to. And, something is supposed to arrive and, it's 3 days late. And I'm like, well, I can't do it right now. It's going to be pushed to next week. But yeah, there's just going to be a bunch of stuff coming in. Hopefully, I don't know when the thing in Billund is, but definitely have stuff coming back from there. And yeah, just all the stuff, typical stuff. But
perfect.
Yeah, but I thank you for having me on. I've had a blast chatting with you.
Thank you very much. I will put a link in the descriptions where you guys can find the podcast, and I hope you guys check out his podcast. Keep checking this podcast out, Matt.
Of course.
Enough. And we'll have you back on again.
Definitely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I will. I'll end this. Thanks, guys. We'll see you again on the next episode of Tavern Brick Podcast.